Hey everyone, Fez and Anton here today. Obviously, the major announcement is out and it explains it really well. But what we wanted to do was bring a series of interviews talking through with some of the tech team and breaking down why we've gone down the path we have. And the first person that we are going to talk through together on things is Anton. Anton, how are you?
Doing good. How about you, Fez?
Great. I mean, now
It has been,
I feel unburdened. We can talk about stuff.
yeah, it has been a quiet couple of months. This has been in the works for, I think the planning stage started like late 2024, right? Or
Yeah, yeah.
discussions started then.
Uh,
It's been a while.
Building started late 2024. Discussion started earlier, but
Yeah,
time just kind of falls into one when you're having fun, right, Anton?
yeah, yeah.
So,
Exciting.
Anton, remind everyone what you do here at Icon, Sodax.
Icon and Sodax. So what I've done mostly since, well, as everyone knows, we listen back in days. I started with balanced, right, and then quickly started architecture in balanced, and then that has moved into architect or like being a core part of architecture in the cross chain um, move for balanced.
Mm.
Um, and that has basically just kept going that route. And now I am mainly architecting a lot of the smart contract infrastructure mainly. And then I'm getting more help with we got Robbie on for now doing more of the backend infrastructure, and we got Alex on who's doing a great job doing the solver, and has really put me in the spot to focus on basically the cross-chain smart contract infrastructure.
Yeah. Well, he's being modest, first of all. So Anton was architecting everything. Obviously, he had support in the form of doers and a very capable team that you've seen. That's why we've been delivering for the past 2 years. But in recent times, it's been good. We've been getting in subject matter experts to pull Anton away from those things so he can focus on something he really excels at, which is smart contract work in general. However, that said, like, given he had his hand in everything, he did assess what was happening and kind of redraw the game plan from a technical perspective to make things better and kind of tap into what we did best. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And the first question we'll tackle is so why did we revise the architecture and what we wanted to build?
Yes, this can go like far back as well. Like everyone knows how Icon started with like BTP mainly, and then Xcall and everything as a cross-chain move. But then during the last year, we pivoted to focusing on balanced and adapt going cross-chain and getting cross-chain usage that way. And of course, we took a lot of learnings on building a cross-chain app and what we actually needed, getting understanding more and more what is actually important when building these apps. And we were in quite an odd situation because we had this app that we liked that we have built up, but it was in a language that we hadn't, that wasn't widely used. We couldn't really adapt quickly. It wasn't built with cross-chain in mind when it was built the first time, so it was a lot of legacy to deal with. So many options that started the discussion of if we were to do this better, what would we do? Um, and I think that is like what sparked the discussion and thinking, how can we move cross chain as fast as we're doing? Because when we started, delivering chains, we got a lot of comments like, "Oh, it's being so fast." And
Mm.
we did deliver a bunch of chains, then we stopped. It's mainly because of what we're doing now. And we revised how can we deliver chains more securely, faster, and have them be complete. Because that's an issue we had with balance as well. We launched cross-chain loans, we launched cross-chain swaps, all in different sequences, and it was very efficient because each of these features had to be built for each chain in kind of like a, yeah, its own way, which made it
Mm,
very work heavy to do one
mm,
chain or do another feature. It was very heavy on our end. And we wanted to optimize that flow. Uh,
yeah. This is one, yes, agree. And then also Anton is being modest. He had me in the background saying, "Hey, I want to use NOL more. I want to tap into it more. I want to increase our yield." And by I say we. Imagine when I say I'm always mean me. This annoying like twerping guy in the background saying this.
yes,
How do we make this more? Like we got 5 million of it. It's locked in these LPs. It's completely inefficient. What
yeah.
can we do better? So
Yes,
that
this
was
becomes
also
like kind of, yeah, that's also one big part of it. And like, uh, that's also what had us going down, maybe migrating to also a new chain and using other infrastructure even more, because we could potentially build out more efficient ways to use NOL on Icon. But that means
mm,
a lot of work that perhaps already exists on other chains where we can fork, we can lean on for security, for a lot of a lot of help and a lot of speed, really, and not having to rebuild everything that we do on Java,
yeah,
isolating ourselves and our work.
yeah.
Um,
I think that nails it. Like the fact
yeah,
is, the simplest of things, and I've even talked about concentrated liquidity is a great one. Like we managed to onboard devs to kind of build out this feature, but that itself like is proof. This concentrated liquidity feature is tried and tested, hundreds of audits to existing code like Uniswap, things like that, and here we are rebuilding it, which is taking 3 to 8 to 9 months just to rebuild. And then it's not battle tested because it's a translation. So there's security
yeah,
risks there. But that aside, so these things, then we lose 9 months. Meanwhile, the industry moves. So the truths there had to be addressed. So we
yeah,
knew we have the NOL. We knew, we needed to do something different. We've been building the relays, the infrastructure. So this is something that I feel is maybe lost. Is we didn't prioritize sheer mass of chains. I have said this a few
yeah,
times, as in every EVM we could have done that. We prioritized tech stacks, which gave us a ton of learning in the infrastructure. And when the conversations kick-started, we were like, okay, what are things that we can do to revamp the architecture, leverage the NOL? And Anton had some ideas, very good ideas there. And the final part was, hey, we're on a second iteration of our relay. What are our learnings if we were to redo our relay infrastructure, right? To make it secure, make it faster, make sure like what were some of the challenges we faced with our front ends when they're integrating and the information we needed from different chains, which was a lot when you're dealing with,
yes.
cross-chain infrastructure. So all of that jam packed into it to go, okay, well, back to the drawing board. What do we want? What will make us successful?
Yeah, because
So,
that's like a big thing that also is very good to mention. The learnings from cross-chain, going cross-chain to chains like Sui or Stellar or
mm,
Solana, where their thinking is not EVM. They don't think in EVM ways of thinking when building.
mhm,
And if you apply like maybe some cross-chain infrastructure that exists, like I don't know, IBC for example, or even things like Layer Zero, they don't necessarily fit the same way they fit on EVM. The way they design their infrastructure doesn't necessarily work on a chain like Sui because they have different permissions. So we
mm,
needed to think again, like how could we modify to think about these chains first, to think like these chains, how to make an infrastructure that fits these chains better, and also be more future proof, moving to a new tech stacks and being also easier to move to new tech stacks. And there's no like, oh no, Sui, we can't do this in Sui. We'll have to rethink everything. We have to do like
mm,
weird patching that doesn't really make sense, make things more cluttered and unclear.
mm,
Um,
mm.
that's also a
Eh,
big part of that this redesign as well.
Yeah, because you're right. The tech stacks are vastly different. Like, you see the popularity of Solana. building on it has not been a dream in any way, shape, or form. We've had devs break down building on Solana, and it's an ongoing joke within the team. But on the flip side, though, what we knew and what Anton told me from the experience of building a hub and spoke model was I need sub-second finality. Like, if we want to redo this, this is the core. Well, this is something that's important. Yes, we need a proper chain with infrastructure support, all that stuff, but it needs to be sub-second.
Yeah.
Now, I love ETH. Yes, let's not talk about its performance, but I've always, everyone knows this, it's the OG chain. It's going to be around. It's got layer twos. Second, any blockchain discussion came in, I was like, it's layer twos, guys. This is not even a conversation. And believe me, I I put many layer twos on Anton's plate, but ultimately layer twos fell short because, well, I know there's liquidity fragmentation going on there, but it didn't affect us because that's what our cross-chain infrastructure resolves. However, finality, it didn't have finality. It had pre-confirmation, which is, what is pre-confirmation, Anton?
Well, like that depends a little bit on the chains, but generally, when we take the big ones, it's basically a centralized entity run by the foundation saying this transaction will be included, I promise. And going on pre-confirmations is good enough. And even though also like pre-confirmations might not even be that fast on layer twos, it can be a couple of seconds there as well. And while doing a cross-chain app dependent on pre-confirmations would probably been okay. It's like, yeah, okay, it's fine, maybe. But I'll probably dive deeper on why finality is so important in cross-chain, because that might not be too clear either.
Please.
Yeah. No, but finality is as soon as transaction can't change anymore, which is pretty clear. Like it's on EVM, it's like maybe 13 minutes, I think, if I recall correctly. You have to wait until then you know that your transaction won't change. And that's why you might see on Binance, for example, there is like a 30-minute deposit, or many exchanges. It takes a while for deposits to arrive for
certain amount of blocks, right? Yeah.
Exactly,
It's like, even though it's 10 seconds, you have to wait like 11 minutes before it's confirmed. Yeah.
Yeah. And this finality doesn't necessarily matter when you're on the chain, because like the block has happened, you can keep on acting on top of your failed transactions or your potentially non-final transactions and keep acting. And then it might revert later. But on when you do cross-chain, you can't promise something on another chain before it is truly complete on the origination chain. So if we keep all our hub logic on a chain that has a slow finality, means that a message comes into the hub, and we have to wait until that is final, until we can deliver the result on another chain. On Icon, this was fine because it was a tender min 2-second block finality. It was fine, good enough. So we needed something similar for sure. And that's why Sonic was one of the ones that launched with a sub-second finality, which means like we can basically act instantly. As soon as something happens on Sonic, we can start delivering the result on any chain anywhere, which is a very important aspect of chain choice. And there are a couple of chains like this. Like Sui also stood up. They also have instant finality. Very good. But then the drawback there is like their language isn't really flexible. It doesn't have as much readily available audited code. And then also, you have like Mega ETH and these ones coming up promising a lot of things, but Sonic was one of the ones that actually delivered it so far.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there's been some questions around the chain selection and something we're going to address. We did go through, Sui was, a big one that we had been working with. We understood the language. The certain infrastructure at the time was missing that we needed around for the cross-chain, for the relay components, the way we call the chain's information, etc. But I think, again, it came down to one of the other learnings we had was we wanted to get bogged down innovating where nothing existed, not on everything that existed. And this is something we just always fell into the bucket of with Icon. It was like, hey, we can do all this cool stuff. What about this? But these foundational blocks we have to retranslate because it hasn't been done. And in this case, like Sui is a very emerging ecosystem, and that code base is growing, but it wasn't there yet. And finally, like the end products that are looking to consume us are chain agnostic. Like we are trying to build this abstracted experience. So ultimately, we're still servicing all these chains, but to Anton's point, sub-second finality, battle-tested code. These were the key things that we wanted and drivers and infrastructure that existed. Right? We
Yeah,
were ready to
exactly.
go. So. I think that's really good. I think that's a good summary of why we did what we did. This was some of the rationale around the rework, and we've covered what chains we
Yeah.
wanted to. We looked
I
at.
mean, even things as like launching our own chain, a new chain was also on the discussion, but then we
Oh
get bogged down. We need to pay for infrastructure again. What benefit is there in paying very expensive infrastructure? And
yeah,
it's a lot of
that is another excellent point. I think it's lost on. There's blockchain. And when you look at a blockchain, you still have infrastructure. Apart from emissions, you still have infrastructure that you have to pay to run the chain. You have to have all these other nodes that third parties consume. There's all this other stuff. And then on top of it, you're emitting the token that pays the validators to secure the chain. And then infrastructure for the chain, like trackers, etc., etc. So there's cost there. Layer twos, heck, we even look at avalanches, subnets, but at the end of the day, each of these had one kind of like you still had infrastructure costs to pay out in terms of
yeah,
trackers, etc. You didn't benefit from solutions that were already connected to the chain on certain layer twos, etc. So you'd have to worry about those integrations. So
yeah. Like
ultimately, yeah,
paying oracles, for example, is a tough one. Like, how do you get oracles to launch
great
in your chain?
example.
Why are they launching?
Yeah.
Launching on a chain that has oracles, maybe it has USDC. All of these are
Mm.
bonuses that we can
Yeah.
get from a new chain that we don't have to pay for. They're just there.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that is an excellent call out. So it's like we want a blockchain where teams dedicated doing the stuff with the blockchain. That's their focus. We get the perks of all the integrations, Oracle support, anything that their chain gets. Our protocol and our suite of products that we're going to offer is benefits from it. So more on that now. I think that's a good overall overview of why we did what we did. So then, Anton, like what's different this time? Like Balance was a CDP slash AMM. What have we changed with our infrastructure overhaul to make things more efficient?
so, like you said, we want to make NOL more efficient. And then there's another point that came in as well, solvers. Solvers are a big new focus on how to make CrossGen really feel great as well, like being fast, being having good prices. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, so those are the main parts. And for now, people might have noticed like the solver needs to hold funds. A solver needs to hold funds on all of the chains. It needs to deliver swaps on, preferably. And that also became incredibly unscalable in the same way.
mm,
Um, So now I'd say we're pivoting our infrastructure to be a money market in the core instead of a CDP in the core. Uh, so we're doing more of like a money market with a CDP. And that means our network owned liquidity will then be in a money market, and we can then have borrowers on that market. And for example, here, since we are a cross-chain money market and a sub-second finality chain, means that we can have any of our NOL tokens delivered on any chain within sub-seconds, right?
mm,
Uh,
mm,
and now the solver does no longer need to hold any funds. It needs to be allowed to borrow for short-term small amounts of funds, which means there's more of the network's assets risk than, let's say, we can give like the solver 100K to use. And that's for that
mm,
solver. We can have another solver with another 100K, we can spread our risk and many things we can go into what we can do with it. But that's kind of the basics of, we can give the solver a bucket. Here's what you can use now. Solver suddenly has $100,000 available on any chain within sub-seconds that he can use to give
Yep.
swaps to users or trades to users. So
So
that's the major change in the infrastructure,
yeah,
right? On the hub part.
yeah, and I want to expand there because you touched on some really good points. Like right now, I think everyone will agree. Like now, our core is the NOL, right? We have 5 million and growing worth of assets. That's enough. If that's not enough in V2 LP pools, which you can see, it may be enough, much better performing in a concentrated liquidity pool, but there's some ramifications there. But it is extremely efficient via a solver because it enables us to streamline things more. And a great example there is, as Anton said, the design money market was picked because we can have it as a single-sided asset. So assets like Injective, Avalanche, etc., we don't have to amass like $2 million worth of it. We could amass 200,000, 150,000, have it sitting in the money market. Doesn't need to be in an LP. The solver uses it to supply it to whoever's trading and then rebalances itself using the native chain's AMMs. And this is kind of, it didn't just winged it. Like this was the beauty of the design. Once we face these challenges, like when Anton was architecting, it's like, okay, these are our roadblocks. The solver, security. How do we get? If the solver had to hold $150,000, then we're in the same boat as it's sitting in the LP, divided in an LP, right? Inefficient. It's inefficient, and no one can access it. But if it's in a money market, we can generate revenue through just traditional lending. But at the same time, when accessible for the second swap that needs, or 10 seconds or whatnot, these borrows can be made and swaps can be used, done on chain with the native AMMs that have a butt ton of liquidity, right? Like Sui on Cetus, we go to settle, they have like, I don't know, what is it, 50 million in their LP? We'll never have that. So why are we trying to fight it? Let's use.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I realized. It doesn't really make sense to be a liquidity provider unless you can be one of the biggest. And we will try to be one of the biggest for certain pairs. That's a later discussion in concentrated liquidity. But we won't try to be it for all the tokens we want to add to our ecosystem, because that becomes unscalable.
Yeah, agree. So that was an excellent call out. And okay, so the money market, and then what else did we do? What else did we have anything else there that we needed to address as part
of
the
hub? I think like on the hub, if we stay on the hub for a couple more seconds, we have. Of course, we needed to overhaul the DEX so we can have a V3 DEX. And what we thought there as well, like we want our assets to be effective. And that's also where we adapted it so we can have things similar to like, if people are aware with Fluid, where you lend your money in a DEX or in a V3 liquidity pool, but you can lend it at the same time, earning double yield. That's also one of the features that's starting to become more and more like default. And all of these things are readily available for us and easy enough to build. So that's another thing that we do. We're making a DEX again, but more efficient, with readily available code, with only minor changes, and same with money markets, right? That is the major overhaul. Then on the cross-chain infrastructure, of course, there's major overhauls as well.
Huge.
No, so one thing that we had for Balance, for example, like I said, it was built as a app and then it's made cross-chain. This time we're building cross-chain first, and not adding a new chain isn't an exception; it's just a default. While for each chain we added the Balance, that was an exception. There's something different that has to be done. We have to integrate this chain in the apps as well as the actual infrastructure. But now we built the infrastructure in a way where every chain that we connect should natively have access to the app in full. So like say Balance, for example, governance was never available. The Balance tokens voting, for example, was never available. But it was very complicated to make that available. now we rebuild infrastructure such as these things get integrated by default. Like everything when you join a chain is default integrated, and there's no extra work on our end, and we can rely on our let's say audited code that is isolated in an EVM environment, and we have our hub like cross-chain layer that translates between chains.
Which is the relay infrastructure, right? That sends
Yes, the
messages back and
relay,
forth.
the relay infrastructure and the cross-chain infrastructure that has this layer, which means we can have our readily audited code, or things we build are built in a non-cross-chain environment. Then we have a layer that translates cross-chain into native chain, make it such that it's small components built for each chain we want to go to, and as soon as we go to that chain, everything's enabled.
Yeah,
A cross-chain native app.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. Of course, because I was there listening to it all. But one of the other aspects that you made sure, like, yes, we have built our own infrastructure cross-chain. It has helped us reach niche chains, or new chains, I should say, with unique tech stacks, right? Like Sui was one of them. We built this apart from the Ethereum bridge. We were one of the first players to build, an accessible bridge to Sui from various other tech stacks that we'd already integrated. What advantage? Crap, I forgot my question.
No, I mean, I'm not sure what you're going to touch on, but if it's like there's other bridges available to us now as well, which is different from Icon, right?
That
so
is
Sonic is going to have SysTP, for example, for USDC. That bridge is going to exist, which means we are probably not going to want to secure our USDC. We might just depend on SysTP to secure our USDC, and that's an important part to be available as well, I think.
But can we use their infrastructure? Is kind of like have we? My understanding is the way you've designed the core architecture, while at the moment we're using our relays, but we've built it in a way where underlying we can switch it out and, like, say, layer zeros, there's a little bit of work involved and ask for us to get it to that spot.
Of course.
We can basically, we don't have to build new contracts, etc. We can just tap into layer zero if we want to, and get a whole new network of chains for our app, leveraging their technology. That's how I've understood it, right, Anton? Like, is that true?
Yeah, with a little bit of work, exactly. We are able to connect to other little bit of work, but without any work, we can still use them to secure assets still in our app, which is great. And then a little bit of work for each protocol, because every protocol still is different, right? That's layer zero, wormhole. They all are different by design, and they use different kind of principles. And
but
some
you've
are
kind of
more flexible than others,
layer.
but yes, exactly.
Yeah,
So
and
we did
you've
that layer,
that layer to tap. Yeah.
So there's only one place where we need to do minor changes on the hub only as well. We don't need to go to different chains and do stuff. We focus it on the hub, do minor changes to integrate layer zero, for example, and then we can connect as well.
Yeah.
And we can depend on a mix of infrastructures more easily than I think like what we had with Xcall as well wasn't hard, but it was slightly more complex because we needed work on both chains and a bit more complications.
So have we just done away with Xcall? Like, is Xcall dead?
Hard to say. Depends on how we want to call it. It's very it's very minimized, I'd say. It's optimized for flexibility now. But it's still there, with just that I guess the name might change due to the whole thing, of course. But it's still there.
I intentionally asked that, and I'll throw a bit more context over that. Like, so it has been simplified is a good use of language, right? So Xcall is still around, and then also it's been kind of, Xcall was its own contract with a bunch of functions in it to enable messages, etc. All that's been kind of simplified and shoved into the relay as a relay package. So packaged into the relay is that's a correct takeaway. So yes, it exists, but technically now it's just been streamlined, and like it's become more for part of the product.
It's more only like we only store the security on chain now, and all the complications around it that made it hard to build has been stripped. It's been stripped down to its bare security minimum, like
Mhm.
not security minimum, but the things it needs to have its
Yeah,
security
yeah.
principles in place, and nothing more. And then, of course, more things has been done as like reversing the chain of execution to fit chains like SUI, for example. But that's a
Mm.
very more complicated topic.
Yeah, look, there's diagrams and stuff completely mapped out, which I haven't brought on here. Like then we're getting too technical. It's a technical
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
update, but higher level, so everyone gets the picture. Um, yeah, I think that's good. Good. Okay, so uh, all of this, I think one thing, Anton, you said V3 AMM. It's actually going to be a V4 FYI. Like we're going to go with state of the art. But you did mention, since you mentioned it, let's talk about it. A more streamlined liquidity, right? So on balance at the moment, we have every asset has its own pair in an
Yeah.
LP pool, but over here in what was nicknamed Inside Scoop New World. While we're working on this, all internal references was New World. So instead of Sodax, I apologize if I say New World. So in Sodax, we're building it as an infrastructure layer, and one of the core pieces of the infrastructure will be a V4 AMM,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
we
So
will,
yeah.
yeah, go tell us more.
No, so that is yeah, it will be a V4 AMM and the money market. Right? Those are the core components that we're going to start out with, and those are the core components in DeFi these days,
Mm.
right?
Oh yeah,
And here,
foundation.
because we still need liquidity for some of our tokens. Sodax needs on-chain liquidity. BNUSD needs on-chain liquidity, and
Mm.
also liquidity can be profitable. And yes, like having V3 or V4, they're the same for the liquidity perspective, but
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Hooks. It's all about hooks. Got to hook it
yeah,
up. So
no,
okay,
but
so
then
that
yeah,
yeah.
you go
No, so
on.
what I guess what as you said, we need Sodax liquidity, we need BNUSD liquidity. So the money market, as I explained earlier, enables us to tap into other liquidities pairs on any of the chains we're on, those dexes, to find the best price for our users. But we also need BNUSD, Sodax, and we built this V4 AMM, and we'll kind of squeeze all our assets into 2 or 3 big pools in terms of BTC, ETH, Sodax, BNUSD to make them what,
Just
meaty, buffy?
liquid.
No, what, liquid? Of course,
Yeah,
liquidity, liquid. Make them liquid, which then means we have a really good pool AMM to hit for rebalancing of BNUSD for and I'm guessing, Anton, correct me if I'm wrong, that will really help with the price
the
peg,
stability.
the
Yeah,
the
peg. Yeah.
stability, the
For
peg, the
now, we
peg.
have like kind of many. We have decent liquidity now on balance as well, but like there's spread across many pools, and each pool
Mm,
has quite a lot of slippage, and it isn't optimal the way we have it
yeah,
currently.
yeah.
Definitely a way of optimizing this.
Yeah. Okay. No, great. I think that's also really well covered. Now, one thing though, I do want to reiterate here, because you may be seeing a few different language used across Discord if you've been following all the announcements. Um, and maybe, Anton, you can shed some light. So, we've been now working, you and me have been working together for a couple of years, few years now.
Yeah.
And what do you think has been what did we do different this time when we, like, yes, we re-architect, went back to the drawing board, but even during the development, what did we do different than all the previous work we've been doing? I didn't mean to
Many
put you on
things,
the
many
spot, but
things.
yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
well, we did have a lot more like planning ahead of time and no
Mhm.
more. Um, it's more this problem was solved before we started building rather than trying to solve the problem when we're building,
Wow, yeah, yeah.
which would balanced.
Mm. Mm.
And we, yeah,
Because
we
it had
had
a
a
lot of
better
legacy
plan.
code, right? Like But
Yes.
most of balance, if it was a new feature, it's like, okay, and then we have to figure out problems to just make it work. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand.
Then needs to work with the old icon features, and then needs to work with the new chains and the other
Mm,
chains, and
mm,
all of that is very different. And having that
mm,
flow of working now, where we um, have a more clearer picture of everything and the long-term goal in that sense, without legacy, it has been
mm.
much easier from
Yeah,
a building perspective.
yeah. I also like, as we've been building, something that really struck home with me was like front ends was a different beast,
Yes, of
right? And
course.
you hate front ends. Often when I'd be like, but Anton, on the front end, how do you? It's like, don't talk to me about front end. And, we had Parrot 9 who tackled the front end, who have been brilliant. But front end is design, and then there's other work in the back, the logic that has to be done to connect things, the wallets, etc., and then actually interface with our
Yeah,
contracts. So it's like this whole jigsaw puzzle
yeah.
that Anton didn't know
That was
much
that was
about.
a that was a big piece, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I say like everything now is so simple, and it's so simple in the way we built it, and it's just these isolated parts, and everything is simple. It definitely does not mean it's simple to create transactions to interact with our app. That's very
Mm,
hard. On the other hand,
mm.
while the
Because it's a
smart
cross-chain
contract
app.
pieces are built like a puzzle, it's clear, like we have isolated pieces that we can, audit and we can manage. And on that sense, in my mind, it's very clear the flow of money, the flow of, information is clear. But for a front end to create these complex cross-chain transactions, how do I, from my SUI collateral, borrow Solana, for example? It's not
Mm,
it's not an easy transaction to build, and that was even a problem with balance as well. Like we build a bunch of features, and then the front end has to integrate them, and they need to figure out how to call the contract with the correct parameters and everything. And when we started reaching out to partners, hey, do you want to integrate our solver? Um, or even our app, it became just like, yeah, we have some docs on how to do it, but it's still complicated.
mm,
Uh, and we had a large focus when building, as we build out proper SDKs that simplify each use case we want to deliver. So when we give it to the front end, there might be a specific SDK to do a certain action, and that SDK can then be delivered, and the front end can be more focused on designs, I don't know, animations, or whatever they want in there. Uh,
yeah. They
and
don't have
we
to
can
build
focus
that
on,
transaction. Yeah.
yeah, like they when they do a swap, they want to input the amount they want to swap and the token they want to swap. That's what they should know, not that they're doing 100,000 things in the background that's happening in
Mm.
cross chain, whatever is happening. They don't necessarily shouldn't even need to know that it's cross chain in the SDK, right? That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. 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 So,
And I think we
so
learned
then,
that from the solver, right? When we started
yeah.
delivering that to partners and building an SDK, it's so much having a good SDK is very important.
Mm. Well, let's having an SDK is important, which is something we
Yeah,
just never had, and that was our learnings when talking to partners, etc. And and that's in the new world now, in the Sodax world, like Balance is a partner, Hannah is a
yeah,
partner, even though we know these names, like this is who we've been building for. But this is kind of where I want to separate, like, we built this architecture. This architecture enables lending, loans, swaps, cross-chain swaps, actually wallet integrations. Believe it or not, because we've connected so many chains, part of the architecture we built is packages that we can front ends can use to connect to all the different chains. Because and we're not on EVM, we're on so many different tech stacks, right? And that itself is a piece of work.
yeah,
And we never, even when we integrated new chains, yes, they were moving along, and we got our processes in line. We knew what we were doing. We started churning them out. We backfilled resources with particular skill sets to enable us to move quickly. But when contracts were being built, there was still this front ends were spending time to figure out every component of it. So when we redid the architecture, as Anton said, we said, okay, we want to build these packages, SDKs, with these functions for not just our partners, direct partners who know our product to consume. We want to be able to sit in a room and go, hey, you have this, I have this, look at this, and you can enable this set of functionality. And
yeah,
and that's kind of what has what we're doing, right? So this is kind of where I like to think of Sodax as an infra provider for the suite of services. And as we continue to build anything in a cross-chain, chain abstracted manner, it can be consumed via these SDKs by our existing partners and potential new partners.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
Anton?
it simplifies a lot of things for sure. Because that was like when I started designing again a cross-chain app first, you start to notice like, oh, how is a front end guy ever gonna understand how to build these transactions properly and act on it? That's
Mm.
gonna be hard, and it needs to be abstracted away as soon as possible
Mm.
when building.
Yeah, yeah, agree. And so this is it's a big deal. Even yesterday, I was on a call because part of we've actually no, I'll let you tackle this. I don't want to say too much. I think that's a good that we've covered that part. And I wanted to the idea of this is we could get these out short and sweet. We've been talking for 40 minutes though. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, even though we talk like this all the time. But
Can
it's
release an
good.
extended version.
We can, yeah, and it's educating our community because they have been asking a lot of this, and hopefully this has shed some light. What I do want to the finally, so this is a lot, right? We've talked about a lot, new architecture, new thing,
Yeah.
refine this, better relays. The next question is like, but when, Anton? Like,
When
all
question
this
mark?
stuff sounds time consuming, and like it just sounds like fluff in the air.
No, so like as of like today, even most things are technically on testnet. Everything's live already. I can say that
Mm.
much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost. Where we have all the chain stacks that we
He's
have
being modest.
connected,
Yeah.
and even then we have two new chain stacks integrated that isn't even mentioned on testnet. Of course, they're not mainnet ready at all, and
Yeah.
won't be yet. But I'm just hinting that as part of the work, we had some time over, and some devs had time to integrate some new chains as well. No, and like when is still like exact dates are hard, but as I
Yeah.
think we have talked about a little bit as well, we're gonna launch first infrastructure only. Front ends take time,
Hmm.
and moving some money over, having the solver work as I explained it. We don't need a lot of liquidity, we need some liquidity, and at that point we can start using the swaps. And
Yeah.
those swaps can be replaced in the balance front end, can be replaced in the HANA swaps, and people will start using Sodax before they even know they're using Sodax. Um,
Hmm.
so that
Yeah.
is the when, and all of that is basically in development currently in a very closing state. Like it's definitely
Yeah.
starting testing on mainnet very soon.
And I can talk to this a bit more as well because Anton's being very modest. Like they're phases, obviously. So if I were to be quite transparent, I'm talking about the infrastructure. Obviously, everything has to get voted, approved, etc. So that's separate. I'm not going to get bogged down into that. But what I'm trying to get across, and I want everyone to know, is for a long time we've been not, hey, we're going to do this, and then, promises, and then nothing ever happens. We've kind of been, this is what we're doing. Here it is. This is no different, right? The reason why the announcement kind of took a bit of time to get out and what we wanted to have the core fundamental architecture done and not just done and then another 6 months. Like it's the phase one, which is the money market contracts, the relay infrastructure, which you've probably seen in the dev update. I've confirmed infrastructure is live. All this is actually live on mainnet, tested, ready. Components that are just the tail end is the solver getting integrated into this because it needs to be on mainnet to make sure it can rebalance itself with proper LPs because liquidity
Yeah.
in AMMs because these things aren't good on all the other chains. Like some chains testnets don't have working representations of their apps on testnets, which makes it very hard for us to do this kind of testing. So these are the components that are at the tail end at the moment and the finishing touches of the SDKs being put together. So then our front ends, teams like Balance, can literally integrate it, right? Like without having to figure out the transaction logic and all this stuff. So that part is is the final phases, and obviously the final piece there is the loans, the minting of BNUSD, which is I think this week getting ready to be on mainnet. So it's very far along. This is strictly our infrastructure.
Yeah, and
Everything
just to
that's
make
being
this
built.
point even clearer, maybe like these, because many are like, why Sonic? Oh, Sonic has no users. We had like people, well, Sonic is quite lively, but
Mm,
people are coming with those comments and are worried about Sonic users. Even though we are on Sonic, in this first phase, Balance is just going to launch its current chains. It's not going to launch the Sonic chain as a part of this. I think, at least. I don't think they have planned to integrate it. Maybe they will. But to make the point clear, like Sonic users are not what's being catered to in this first infrastructure launch, right? We're just switching
it's
infrastructures.
the tech.
It's as clear as that. It's the tech that changes,
It's
and the
yeah,
users shouldn't really notice a difference if you use Balanced. Um,
yeah. Maybe some
yeah,
extra
yeah,
features. Yeah, you're spot on. Like it is the hub, it is the source. We're moving it all there. It delivers what we need from it, and we can use a tried and tested EVM code base to execute our plans. This is no thing. I don't know why people think nothing's happening on Sonic. It's absolutely crazy. In fact, I do. I do all my degenning on Sonic. That's my
yeah.
personal. And but
But
yeah, look,
yeah, I tried to push the
that
thing.
is
Like we
important.
could have, if we trust that Sonic will stay around, which Phantom as a foundation we have looked at, and they seem
Yes.
stable. They have been for a long time. They aren't going anywhere, and that's what's
Yeah.
most important, at least to me. Like I know the marketing team loves Sonic and tapping into their user base, but from a technical perspective, I didn't care about the users at all. Like
Yeah.
their
All
infrastructure
that's
is
important.
much more
Yeah.
important. Yeah,
Bingo. I think this is it. Like, and the yeah, where Sodax is providing these suite of services, and Anton touched on it. Like, he doesn't know if Balance is now spun up into a partner. It's a front end. They can provide a unique experience, like Hannah's wallet experience on loans and things will be very different to the way Balance and to a different user base to then how Balance is going to present it. This is more not technical, but just giving context here, because we may enable another 5 chains after this, but Balance may prioritize other things, which is not more chain integrations. And that's for Balance to do. And as we ramp up on more partners, and Sodex itself could have another front end which prioritizes other things. Like, that's the
yeah,
beauty of how we built this stack modular for partners to consume. And I'm very big on that. Like, this is why the team has on, again, not the tech team. Tech team have got their heads down, grinding away to hit these tight timelines. And then the growth team is out there. You're seeing all these pictures. They look fun. They're not sitting there having a great time. They're in there, conversation after conversation, networking, meeting new protocols, setting up meetings, trying to get more partners on board, because we've learned our lessons and we've optimized that experience of how we can deliver something they can consume. And competition's tough, but that's a separate thing. But these things are happening, and this is kind of why Sodax was born.
yeah.
It's not just a name change, folks. We've literally re-engineered every piece of infrastructure that we use for cross-chain, and kind of streamlined it to package it up into different pieces that different parties can consume.
Yeah, that's why we
So
call it. That's why it's referred to a lot as the liquidity layer, right? Because it's not necessarily
yeah.
an app, but the way Balanced was an app. It's more of a
Mm,
layer, and
mm.
Sodax will be an app, or the
Yep.
Sodax.com will be an app. Balance will be an
Yep.
app. HANA will be an app,
Yep.
rather than everything being one app. Do we have the infrastructure, the liquidity layer, as they're going to refer to it too, or what it is, and then
I
we have
think
apps on top, right?
Bingo. I think it's both. It's a unified liquidity layer and infrastructure, because you can tap into the infrastructure to enable multi-chain functionality, cross-chain functionality, abstract a chain, just abstract the chain altogether, however you want to frame it. It's that, along with liquidity, that is on, like, can be tapped into. And the best part around this is, like, it's liquidity that uses most of these chains, big players, to deliver its services. rather than, you'll go to a chain and it has 5 AMMs and the liquidity is fragmented. Like, this is not what we're trying to do. We just need a little bit of the core asset, and after that, we're good to go on these chains, and we use their liquidity. I think 50 minutes. Anton, do we want to close this out with anything? I think that's a really, personally, I always think this, great summary.
Yeah.
I think.
No, I think we covered everything pretty well and explained a lot of things that people have been asking, and a lot of. I think we've gotten the point across on why we chose Sonic and why we moved from Icon. I think is clear as well now. I hope.
Yeah, agree. So next series, I will bring on Alex, I'll bring on Robbie, I'll bring on everyone from the tech team, and they'll start talking about their particular piece that they're solely focused on. Like, I know we talked about SDKs, but Robbie will give us more insights on that. Alex will give us a real detailed rundown about the solver and what's different from how much it's evolved from the early days when we built the solver in under 6 weeks. I think this was the tight timeline. I was like, welcome aboard and deliver this in 6 weeks. And me and Anton just stood in the background waiting. So we'll have each of the guys come through and talk. And then after that, there'll be the growth guys, and everyone will start coming on and giving a bit more insights. But let's cap it at that. Anton, thank you for, taking time away from coding and, doing what you do to break down what we built. Appreciate it.
No, but it is an exciting time. So it's good to be able to share that as well. And it's definitely feels exciting, and it feels like a good move. So it's great.
No, I agree. I'm pretty excited. I think it's all coming together. And specifically, obviously, I went to Dubai 2040, Token 2049 in Dubai. Got me even more excited. I enjoyed the conference. I was in a lot of different workshops, networking during the day. Went to all the Sonic, met everyone at Sonic, which was great. Got to actually had been in Telegram groups, had met a few of the guys, but nothing better than getting to sit in a room with them and talk to them and telling them some of the stuff we're doing, and everyone kind of getting excited about it. So that got me really ramped up. It's like, yes, okay, I'm jet lagged, I'm almost over it, but now slowly that excitement is returning as jet lag is fading. So I'm glad the announcement's out. Let's next episode we'll talk more details, probably solvers next, and we'll chat soon. Take care, everyone. And of course, not financial advice, just trying to keep everyone informed on on what we're doing and what we're building here at Sodax. Take care. Bye.